student t-test. If this is the first time you are listening to my presentation on student t-tests, it may be necessary that you want to take a moment to check out my previous video on student t-test generally so that you can have a good background to understand the concept of the one sample student t-test, because it is a part of a whole series of student t-tests. So today we're going to be looking at just one type of student t-tests of the three types. My name is Dr. Felix Ayedele Oyeleye, and this is Research and Statistics. If this is the first time you are joining me on this channel, don't hesitate to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also share with others that may actually benefit. So, as usual, before I start, I will always want to go through what I call learning objectives. So, as learning objectives at the end of this presentation, you should understand what one sample t-test is all about and when we actually use it in statistics. And then you should get familiar with the formula and then the assumptions. The assumptions are the conditions under which you can use the one sample t-test. And then we're going to perform a little step-by-step calculation on how to use our student t-test to actually arrive at statistical significance. And then we'll attempt an interpretation. Okay, so let's start. By way of introduction, statistical tests, these student t-tests actually help us to determine whether our observed data differs from the expected. And of course, this is common with all statistical tests. That is why we use statistical tests to establish if what we have obtained in our data is actually different from what we are supposed to, what we are expected to get. Okay, so the one sample t-test is one of the most commonly used differential statistics aside the z-distribution test, chi-square test. One sample t-test is also one very important differential test that we use, and it is an example of the student t-test. Okay, so the one sample t-test by definition is used to determine whether the mean of a sample actually differs significantly from a known or hypothesized population mean. So when we took a sample and then we obtain a mean from that particular sample, more often when we are dealing with quantitative data and we obtain a mean from that particular sample, we can compare that mean with an acclaimed mean, with a popular mean, or with hypothesized mean. A hypothesized mean is a mean that is like a reference point, okay? Maybe a generally believed mean, okay? I'm going to illustrate this further. So, typically in research, questions will always come this way as it affects one sample t-test. Is the sample mean significantly different from a known population value? Okay, so let's have a few examples. The average blood pressure versus standard value. Let's say we have average blood pressure we obtain from a group of persons, and then we are comparing it with the standard value blood pressure. Or we have an average fish weight versus the expected weight. Let's say we have fed our fishes with a particular feed, and then we got an average feed weight after feeding them. But ideally, this is what we should expect. So we want to know if there's a difference, okay? And also we have average exam score versus national average. So these are different applications of what? Of our one sample t-test. Now, historical background again is that t-test was actually developed or discovered by a brewery worker by name William Gosset. He was a statistician that took interest in understanding the quality assurance concept in that the Guinness brewery as at that particular time. And it was a time that the research that he was to do was to be done with a small sample. And that is how he ended up with the t-distribution. Okay. Now, when do we use our one sample t-test? Number one, One sample t-test is used when we are dealing with just a sample. And from that sample, we have obtained a mean. And then we want to compare that mean to known population mean. And again, our population standard deviation is unknown. Two conditions. We are dealing with a small sample. Number two, our population variance or standard deviation is unknown. And then our data also approximate to normal distribution. Now, when not to use the one sample t-test, when we have more than one sample, okay, that is when we don't use one sample t-test, or we are dealing with categorical data, or population standard deviation is actually known. The moment the population standard deviation is known, then we are likely going to use our z-test. Okay, so what are the assumptions for our one sample t-test? It's the same assumption for student t-tests as well. Our sample is randomly obtained. For independent, there is independent observation. Our data set is normally distributed, and we are dealing with continuous data. Good. So the conceptual idea for one sample t-test is that we are comparing the difference between our sample mean, our population mean, as it affects the variability within our data set. Now, for the formula for computing for our one sample t-test, we have it here on the screen. Our mean, this is the sample mean minus our hypothesized mean divided by the sample standard deviation over the what? The root of our sample size. Okay, so we have it here. All the components of our formula is clearly spelled out here. So, but there's another piece of information we must obtain before we can compute our test statistics. We must also find out what we call the degree of freedom. This degree of freedom actually determines the shape of our t-distribution. Okay, the curve of our t-distribution. Okay, so the higher it is, the more likely our t-distribution will tend towards what? Our z-distribution. And the formula for our degree of freedom is our n minus 1. N is the sample size. Let's say we are dealing with a sample size of 25, 20. We just subtract 1 from it, and then we get our degree of freedom. Good. So the t-distribution, again, is similar to our normal distribution, but it's usually it has heavier tails. Okay, and the more the sample size increases, the more it tends towards the normal distribution. So usually when we do statistical tests, statistical test is a component of hypothesis testing. When we apply our statistical test, either we are using the t-test, any of the t-tests we have mentioned, it is a component. It's just a step in our hypothesis testing. So we must understand what hypothesis testing is all about. If you are hearing this for the first time, please check out on my other video on hypothesis testing. And this will give you background to understand what I'm talking about here. So in hypothesis testing, you have your null hypothesis, your alternative hypothesis, and then you want to establish your decision rule. Okay? So the first is the null hypothesis. Okay? For our one sample t-test, you state it this way. That means our mean is equal to what? Our hypothesized mean. Okay, so the sample mean equals the hypothesized mean. That is how the null hypothesis will be stated for our null hypothesis for one sample t-test. While the alternative hypothesis could be stated in different way, depends on the perspective of the researcher. Number one, we could have a one-tail statement of the alternative hypothesis, which says that the sample mean is not equal. You can see the equality sign being crossed, is not equal to our hypothesized mean. While we could also state it as our sample mean is greater than our hypothesized mean. While the left tail could also be stated as our sample mean is less than our hypothesized mean. And then the usual thing is to establish the significant error. That is the probability of committing our type 1 error. Okay, usually when the probability is less than 0.05, we will say the result is statistically what? Significant. So, as a critical step in hypothesis testing, we must establish our significant level. It's like a threshold by which we will make a decision on our statistical what? Significance. And usually we have the common value of our alpha, which is our significant level, will be 0.05, 0.01, or even 0.1. But more commonly, we make use of what? 0.05. Good. So let's have an example for one sample t-test. Let's say we have this data for fish weight. Okay? And this is the data set we are working with. Now, you will observe that we are dealing with just one sample. So it means one sample t-test is appropriate for this. Good. So the next thing is that we want to state our null hypothesis. Let's say our hypothesized mean is given to us as 2. Okay? That's the hypothesized mean for fish weight is 2. So to state the null hypothesis, we say the sample mean is equal to 2. While the alternative hypothesis, if it is two-tailed, it will be sample mean is not equal to 2. Recall that when we say two-tailed, it means it is dual directional. The researcher is not specifying a direction. It's just saying that the sample mean is not equal. In other words, it could be less than, it could also be greater than. So we describe that as a two-tailed test. Now, the next step again is to calculate our sample mean. How do we calculate our sample mean? We sum up all the observation we have, as was shown in the previous slide. We sum it up and we divide by our sample size, and that will give us our sample mean. Now, the next step is to compute for our standard deviation. With the same data set, we can compute for our standard deviation. We take the root, okay, and then we compute for our standard deviation. And then the next step is to compute for the test statistic itself using the formula as being displayed on the screen. So we are subtracting our hypothesized mean from our sample mean and dividing it by the standard deviation, sample standard deviation over the root of our sample size. So whatever value we get is usually described as the t-statistics. Okay, we call it the t-statistic or the t-calculated. We give it different name, but that is what we obtain from our data. We call it t-statistics or t computed or t value, the statistical value for our t. Good. Now, but on the other hand, we also need to determine the degree of freedom. Why are we determining the degree of freedom? Because we also want to have another information we are going to compare that t calculated with, which is the t critical, or call it the t tabulated. Okay? So number one, we must get t calculated from our data set, and then we also have the t tabulated from our table. But how do we get this information from our table? First, we must know the degree of freedom. So we pick our sample size, we subtract 1 from it to get our degree of freedom. Now, after getting our degree of freedom, we're now going to use the t distribution table. Now, this is how to use the t distribution table. You make use of the degree of freedom and the significant level. You check it on the table, okay? Your degree of freedom will be on the row, while your level of significance will be on the column. So you find the point of intercept. The point of intercept will give you the critical t value, okay? So that is how you get your critical t value. Now, it is that critical t value you want to compare with the t calculated, okay? The value you got on the table is the critical t value, okay? Or t tabulated. While the one you got from your data set by computation is your t calculated or the t statistics. So when you compare the two together, you can tell, okay? Now, for instance, let's say the degree of freedom is 9 and our level of significance is 0.05 for a two-tailed test. When we check our table, you discover that this is the value at the point of intercept, because our degree of freedom will be on the row, as significant level will be on the column. When we trace it, we're going to get this particular value for a two-tailed test, and that will be our t critical. It is this t critical we are comparing with the t calculated to determine our level of significance. Now, what is the decision rule? Now, when your t calculated is less than, when your t calculated, is greater than your t critical, you reject the null hypothesis. Let me repeat again. When your t calculated, the t value you obtain from your data set, okay, is greater than your t critical, then you will reject what? Your null hypothesis, stating that your result is what? Is statistically what? Significant. Very, very important. So what is the interpretation of this? It simply means that if null is rejected, evidence of difference is established. So when we reject our null hypothesis, we are simply saying an evidence of difference between our sample mean and our hypothesized mean is actually established. But if not rejected, it means we don't have sufficient evidence that there's a difference between our sample mean and our hypothesized mean. Now, in standard reporting, maybe in publication, in journal, this is how it is usually stated. We say a one sample t-test shows no significant difference between the sample mean and the population mean. And we state the t-statistic we obtain, and we also what? Indicate that our p is greater than what? 0.05. Good. So this is the concept we are trying to establish, okay, when we do one sample t-test. I would recommend that you go through this example I've given, you go ahead, check the table, and come up with what should actually be the t calculated and what should be the t critical, and attempt to compare these two. And I would like to hear your feedback in the comment section. Tell me what you got as an answer. And if you have any issue with this particular presentation or an aspect that is not clear to you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will be glad to explain to you how this is actually done. So in summary, our one sample t-test compare our sample mean to a known value or population value, and then we use it for t-distribution. But interpretation is very, very important, because you must also look at effect size and confidence interval. So this is the model we are going to take for one sample t-test. Please don't hesitate to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with others so that they can benefit. And I will see you again in my next video. Thanks for listening.